Are your ready-mix plants as fast as they should be? I'm Brent with Complete Load Solutions, and tonight I want to discuss plant production and what we can do as an industry to squeeze more loads per hour or cycles per hour out of your ready-mix plants. In tonight's example, I want to talk about a plant that does 20 cycles per hour. We'll assume 8-yard loads, so that's 160 cubic yards per hour. And again, 20 cycles. So there's a couple of KPIs that I'd like to discuss before we start this conversation. The key performance indicators are something that I really track and feel that it's a very vital part of operations at a ready-mix plant. And the two I'd like to focus on tonight are ticket to begin load. So simply stated as the time when a dispatcher prints a ticket for a particular truck to when that truck is actually weighed up at a plant. And most producers on a dry run experience about 30 to 60 seconds before that load is weighed up. And that's a lot of time, but I feel that if you drill down into your KPIs, you'll find that same result. The next KPI I'd like to talk about is begin load to end load. And that's simply from when a plant operator weighs up a load to when that cycle is actually completed a plant, end load. And that's going to be your time in minutes and seconds of how fast that load was weighed and discharged at a plant. So again, we're going to assume 20 cycles per hour in this example. And how we're going to do this is Complete Load Solutions in 2015 came up with the concept of automating the weigh process of a load at a ready-mix concrete plant. And what that means is that we're going to create an area just before the plant. So we're basically going to have a staging area, and then we're going to drive under the plant and get loaded, okay? And we've outfitted the fleet of trucks with, in this case, and it could be anything, license plates, decals, what have you, but in this case, we'll talk about RFID tags. We'll have an RFID tag unique to each truck in the fleet, and we're going to have a RFID reader in the staging area and an RFID reader under the plant. And the reason why that's important is that's going to allow us to trigger certain automation actions by the physical presence of a truck in those areas, okay? And I don't want this to sound complicated. Complete Load Solutions has made a focus on making our technologies that don't require an additional login, don't require an extra screen at your plants. I mean, it already looks like, NASA and most of our dispatch centers, but we're focusing really hard on this technology running behind the scenes in the background and very light on your systems, and that's important to us. And where we're going to be successful in this is by increasing the throughput at your plants. So let's picture a scenario where we have a dispatcher that's printed 2 tickets back to back, okay? One for truck 1 and one for truck 2. And just for the simplicity of the conversation, we'll keep the 2 trucks, but picture a plant that just is loading nonstop or, just has tickets, we're just busy for the next 5 hours, right? Nonstop. So this is just going to continue down the chain. So truck 1 will pull into the staging area, okay? And then that truck's going to get read in the staging area electronically. That information is going to be compared to the load index, which is at the batch panel at the plant. And it's going to identify that there is, in fact, a load for truck 1 at the plant. What that action is going to do, it's going to automatically weigh up that load. So there's no plant operator input as far as weighing up the load. The truck's going to pull under the boot, okay? And that truck is going to be identified again to make sure that it is, in fact, truck 1 under the plant. And then that truck's going to begin the load process and the discharge process. Meanwhile, truck 2 pulls into the staging area. Now, where the technology really goes to work and where the time is saved is I want to back up and make an analogy of a car wash. So at an automatic car wash, picture a really busy car wash on a Saturday afternoon, and if you're running the car wash, you need to make sure that those vehicles are bumper to bumper going through the car wash. The further that those cars get apart, they could have squeezed another car, 2 cars, 3 cars per hour out of those car washes. So same applies to ready mix, that if If those trucks aren't bumper to bumper, figuratively speaking, then we're losing production. And what we're actually going to do, instead of having the trucks bumper to bumper, we're actually going to overlap their loading process at the plant. And the way we're going to do this is if you've run a plant, or if you understand how a plant sequence works, you know that your cementitious products and your admixtures empty out, the scales or the bottles empty out or zero out before your aggregates and your tailwater at a plant. So as soon as those scales and bottles go empty, we can now automatically, not manually, but automatically start filling those scales and bottles for truck 2 that's in the staging area. So not a second is wasted in that weigh process. So when you start overlapping that and not just, waiting for the first truck to completely get loaded, you're going to take advantage of that time and overlap it. So that's going to be a savings of about 20 seconds per truck, maybe more depending on your plant configuration, but 20 seconds is a good starting point. So if you apply that 20 seconds over the course of an hour, you're going to get around 2.5 extra cycles per hour out of your plant. And that's organic. That's just from making your loading processes more efficient. So if you take 2.5 loads per hour on 8-yard loads, and this is just a completely arbitrary and random number, but just say you're selling concrete for $125 an hour. In this example, your revenue or your earnings potential has increased by $2,500 per hour. And that's very significant. And some may argue, well, I could just bring it out of, the plant down, 10 miles further down the road or this, but now you're incurring extra travel time, potential different material costs, and you get more inefficiencies that way. So if you can squeeze out more yards per hour or cycles per hour out of your current plant, it all can go to the bottom line. So I would appreciate any comments, questions, or feedback that you have. Please leave them in the comments section. Please subscribe to the channel. We're going to be doing many more videos about how we can do other things utilizing the staging area at a plant, which would include automatic ticketing, automated dispatch functionality. And then again, if you haven't watched our first video where we talk about identifying the trucks under the plant to make sure that the correct truck has actually gotten loaded, which is electronic proof of production, I invite you to go back to the first post and read that as well. Again, if you'd like to talk further about this in a private conversation, please email me at brent, BRENT, at completeloadsolutions.com. Thank you.